Now 9:31 a.m. and a quorum of the board is present. The State Board of Education meeting of October 12, 2021 is called to order. First item on the agenda is the approval of agenda and order of priority. Are there any items board members would like to add or delete from the agenda?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. McMillan.
Yes, as I communicated yesterday before 9:30, I have two resolutions I'd like to put on the agenda. So my motion is just to add a number 12M and put the following resolution regarding counties violating the law by continuing to impose school mask mandates.
So we have a motion on the table. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Ms. Snyder at a distance. Discussion, Mr. McMillan, to you, and if you would.
Did you want to call roll? I just realized.
I can do it when I.
I think we probably need to do that before we start voting on anything.
Well, you'll take a roll call vote.
No, I mean
vote.
just
The introductions, you
present. Oh,
I can, when I do the roll call
Okay.
vote, I can be more explicit
Okay.
with where people are.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're at discussion. If you'd be kind enough to read the motion, because we do have people in person, we have
Sure.
people at a distance, people have not seen the motion.
And again, this is just a motion to add it to the agenda. I would like to add the following to the agenda. Whereas the state's 2021-22 general government budget, Public Act 87 of 2021, Article 6, Department of Health and Human Services, Section 250 on page 180 says, quote, the director, meaning the health director, or a local health officer shall not issue or enforce any orders or other directives that require an individual in this state who is under the age of 18 to wear a face mask or face covering. And whereas Governor Whitmer signed Public Act 87 of 2021 on September 29, 2021, containing the above provision, therefore be it resolved that the State Board of Education expects the state's Director of Health and Human Services and each county health director to abide by the law and not issue mask mandates for any person under the age of 18 in the state of Michigan. Further, be it resolved that the State Board of Education urges school districts and private schools within counties that are violating the law by continuing to impose mask mandates on students to stop abiding by those illegal and unnecessary mandates.
Okay, thank you, Mr. McMillan. We have a motion, we have a second. We have the reading of the motion into the record. Mr. McMillan, would you like to share anything else on the resolution?
Yeah, I'd like to speak to the motion.
Please.
Thank you. Yeah, this is pretty straightforward. I mean, the governor signed the budget. I've used boilerplate. This is called boilerplate language. I used it back when I was in the legislature to stop Common Core implementation by the Michigan Department of Education. Then Governor Snyder fought and, called my colleagues on the weekend, late on Sunday, trying to get them to switch their votes because he knew that a governor with integrity would abide by the law. And he knew that, if it's in boilerplate, it is law. And so I will say that this is in boilerplate. And by the way, he failed. So we had, a summer's worth of debates. And because it was law, it's not something to be ignored. And so, this is in the law. It's very clear, and a governor with integrity wouldn't sign this not thinking that it is law. So I'm assuming that, I would just expect people to abide by the law. That's all I'm asking of.
Okay, thank you, Mr. McMillan.
And I think it's also important that if there are counties performing illegal acts of not abiding by this law, they shouldn't be followed. They should just be dismissed. So I thought that was the reason for the second resolve. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. McMillan. Ms. Lipton, a comment.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. I believe that the premises on which this resolution are based are inconsistent with the facts as I understand them. In Governor Whitmer's budget signing letter dated September 29th, 2021, and I quote in part, budget boilerplate that purports to prohibit state or local health officials from issuing mask or quarantine orders or to penalize local health departments for using their powers under the Public Health Code violates the Michigan Constitution. This is taken from the letter which Governor Whitmer transmitted to the legislature. Consistent with my duty to uphold the Constitution, I will not allow unconstitutional budget language to take effect. Again, that's quoted directly from the letter. These provisions are therefore unenforceable, but that is not stated anywhere in the proposed resolution. Therefore, I cannot support its inclusion on our agenda.
Thank you, Ms. Lipton. Any more discussion from any other board members?
Well,
I'd like to say something.
Oh, go ahead.
Ms. Snyder.
Just in support of the resolution, I want everybody to know that there's countless parents out there that are looking for support to make individual choices in areas where individual choice should exist. And I would even suggest constitutionally that individual rights definitely intermingle with what Ellen was just saying. So, yeah, I've had just a lot of people asking me, can you do anything? What's getting done on this level? So this is an opportunity to communicate that you value parents and kids' personal choices in areas that we should.
Thank you, Ms.
So I would support it.
Thank you, Ms. Snyder. And board members who are at a distance today, if you'd be kind enough to either enter into the chat that you'd like to make a comment or ask a question, or text Marilyn or me to that effect. Other discussion. Mr. McMillan.
I would just say that the governor can certainly express her opinion in a letter. She does not get to decide law. That would be a court. And so if it goes to that, I would suggest, and we know there are counties that realize that it is enforceable, because many counties have, because of this language, chosen to remove the unnecessary and child abusive, in my opinion, forced mandates for children under 18 who are at lower harm by COVID than by dying in a car accident. So they're obviously, and the flu, according to CDC, for them. So it certainly is something that many counties are agreeing is enforceable. And again, it's just the governor's opinion, what she communicated in that letter. So she signed something that she felt was not enforceable. I don't know why she would do that. That doesn't seem very much integrity, but perhaps she could figure out some way to argue that that's reasonable. But nonetheless, it's just her opinion. I think a court would say that this is, they've certainly said boilerplate is law, and we all know that it is. Whether somebody just wants to be, choose not to abide by the law is something that would be resolved in the courts, I would imagine.
Okay, thank you, Mr. McMillan. Are there any other comments in discussion before we pivot to the vote? Hearing and seeing none. Marilyn, if you would be kind enough to do a roll call vote.
Yes. I want to note that the Open Meetings Act does allow for virtual participation and voting due to a medical condition. So Ellen Lipton is voting virtually due to a medical condition. Ms. Lipton?
No.
Mr. McMillan?
Yes.
Dr. Pritchett?
No.
Pamela Pugh is absent. Ms. Snyder voting virtually due to a medical condition.
Yes.
Mr. Strayhorn voting virtually due to a medical condition.
No.
Ms. Tilley voting virtual due to a medical condition.
No.
Dr. Albridge?
No.
251. Motion fails.
Motion fails. Any other proposed amendments to the agenda? Mr. McMillan.
I have one more that I had forwarded to everybody for 9:30 yesterday. It's a resolution, and that I would, the amendment is to the agenda is to insert the following motion as 12M, a resolution opposing the FBI treating parents as suspected domestic terrorists.
Do we have a motion? Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Mr. McMillan, to you to read the resolution, please, and to share any additional thoughts as the introducer of the motion.
Thank you. Resolution, whereas in authoritarian governments, the leaders usually do not want parental involvement in children's education, and whereas in authoritarian governments, the leaders usually view children as resources of the state, and whereas tens of thousands of parents across the United States have been upset recently with government schools imposing unnecessary mask mandates on their children, and whereas tens of thousands of parents across the United States have been upset recently with government schools openly discriminating against their children based on unnecessary mask wearing and vaccine status, and whereas tens of thousands of parents across the United States have been upset recently with government schools becoming more political and pushing critical race theory in the classrooms, and whereas the efforts of diversity, equity, inclusion committees in government schools and school initiatives focused on teaching the values of sexuality and gender identity in government schools are both unconstitutional and divisive, and whereas tens of thousands of parents across the United States have recently decided to speak out at government school board meetings in opposition to the unnecessary mask mandates and in opposition to schools pushing critical race theory in the classrooms, and whereas United States Attorney General Merrick Garland recently called on the FBI to surveil the involvement of parents at government school board meetings, therefore be it resolved that the members of the State Board of Education call on President Biden to demand Attorney General Merrick Garland rescind his call for parents in the United States, especially in Michigan, to be treated as suspected domestic terrorists and needing to be surveilled by the FBI. And I guess we're all pretty familiar with, can I speak to the motion?
Yes.
We're all pretty familiar with how parents are outraged. I mean, yes, there's been a couple of incidences. Apparently, there's where local law enforcement, if needed, can step in. But the idea that the boot of the federal FBI is supposed to come in and quash parents' involvement in their kids' education and expressing their views really harkens back to very authoritarian, closed societies that want to quash debate, opposition, and I just think that it's very unfortunate, very shocking that we're local control. A lot of talk from this board in many years about how we're local control, and yet some, I guess, if they don't want to put this on the agenda, are fine with calling in the FBI and quashing parents' interests, or at least threatening to quash them and their interest to be involved and to express themselves and their concerns about their children's education.
Thank you, Mr. McMillan. Any comments or other discussion? Ms. Lipton?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. The premises on which this resolution are based are inconsistent with the facts as I understand them. In a memo dated October 4th, 2021, the Justice Department cites an increase in harassment, intimidation, and threats of violence against school board members, teachers, and workers in our public schools. Responding to a letter dated September 29th, 2021 from the National School Board Association on behalf of state associations and over 90,000 school board members who govern 14,000 local public school districts, educating more than 50 million children, and citing more than 20 instances of threats, harassment, disruption, and active intimidation that have transpired during school board meetings and targeted at school officials, the Justice Department in its memo announced additional efforts to assist state, tribal, territorial, and local law enforcement involving investigation of crimes directed towards school board members, teachers, and workers in our public schools. In short, a coordination of efforts. Because none of these factual underpinnings appear in the proposed resolution, I cannot support the inclusion of this proposed resolution to our agenda.
Thank you, Ms. Lipton. Any other comments from board members?
Yes, I'd like to speak to the resolution.
Ms. Snyder.
Ellen, I think that when you brought up harassment and intimidation, it's very helpful, those terms, to discuss what these parents are speaking about at school board meetings, and to help everybody understand all perspectives more fully. Parents are coming to school board meetings and they're talking about different initiatives like CRT and DEI committees using public taxpayer dollars to teach kids to categorize themselves and people, generally speaking, as if they're an oppressor or they're being oppressed according to race. This is intimidating. This is harassment for kids to go to school and to feel like they fit in one of those categories according to what we're teaching them and how we're teaching them. So when parents show up and they are communicating their passion, their anger, their frustration, this is real. And I don't think we just assume that one side is what is experiencing harassment and intimidation. Second, they're using these things to teach things that traditionally belong being taught in the home. And that's something to consider. People feel genuinely threatened, not because they just feel it, but because they are being threatened. And I will take that to the extent that when Tom and I were recently called killers of children, that was absolute harassment. Should the board member at this table be investigated by the FBI? Should our chair for not chairing in these scenarios be investigated by the FBI? Should each one of our board members that said nothing that day be investigated by the FBI? That is absolute harassment and intimidation. And at some point in time, if you're treating yourselves with the same equity that you're asking the U.S. Department and Attorney General to follow through with your own suggestions, then I would look in the mirror. This is extremely frustrating. To continually go through this over and over and over again. So I would just ask again, in the spirit of let's be consistent, let's move forward in a spirit of growth, that this is something that we should absolutely not have a problem signing on to, not encouraging the FBI to investigate parents who speak up at local school boards. It's just not, it's not okay.
Thank you, Ms. Snyder. Any other comments? Dr. Albrecht.
Yes, I would just like to, in response to that, say that my understanding is that this is in regards to threats of violence. And if anyone at this board table or anyone else has ever felt that they were threatened with violence, then there are appropriate authorities in which that should be reported to. And I would encourage that.
Thank you, Dr. Albrecht. Mr. McMillan.
Unless there's somebody else.
I see no one else waiting.
Yeah, I just, we look back at the riots last year, and I was certainly not happy. I think at one point, President Trump, President Trump had some federal involvement, but I mean, most on the left, I think we're saying the locals can handle it, and certainly I would agree with that, or should have at least handled it. Some of them may be intimidated not to, but if somebody is saying that parents at board meetings are worse than rioters last year, you'd have to argue that in order to say any kind of inclination that you have to have a federal involvement. And even then, I think you shouldn't and you wouldn't need to. So it is absurd. It is totalitarian, in my opinion, to suggest that, quote unquote, there are some parents who have made threats that the locals can't take care of. This is certainly an effort, and we see this time and time again, that the left uses force and intimidation to quash public opinion and dialogue and freedom of speech. This is the modus operandi of the left. And it's no surprise that they're, and any board who is, or district that is a member of the MASB should be ashamed. I think there should be a complete withdrawal. Their national entity, which they support on their website, said that they liked that this letter was sent, calls parents suspected domestic terrorists. And I think that everybody should get out, they should demand that organization fold, that it be defunded. It is an outrage to be attacking parents like this. Any board that continues with the MASB should, they are agreeing that the parents that are speaking out are suspected domestic terrorists, and that they need the FBI to come in, and the locals can't handle it. If there is anybody who's being a problem, it is horrendous theater that has only one objective, and that is to silence people who should be speaking out. And quite frankly, I put government schools because I don't really think using the word public schools is appropriate anymore, because for districts that are okay with the way things are being talked about parents, there's no interest in the public. It's no longer it's taxpayers, it's government. There's no interest that parents and the public be involved if they're going to sit and talk about, call them suspected domestic terrorists. So that's why I think this should be on the agenda and voted on. And I hope that anybody who would be opposed to this action that is going on would support at least getting it on the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McMillan. Are there any other comments from board members? Hearing and seeing none.
Yes,
Sorry.
Tiffany Tilley.
I'm sorry, Ms. Tilley.
Yes. I can't do this every meeting. This is not what I'm here for. I'm here about the education and educating our children in Michigan. We are supposed to be getting our children in the top 10 in 10, not all of this political grandstanding that is happening every meeting. You keep on bringing up politics, both of you, every single meeting. And just like you guys feel attacked on some levels, so do we. Can we please focus on educating our children and not having the same rhetoric every meeting and our meetings being commandeered with this stuff? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tilley. Ms. Snyder, to you.
Tiffany, I really do think that people would love to do that in our communities, but the politicization of everything in the last 18 months has made it next to impossible. And we're not going to stop. This is going to continue. It's going to continue to be uncomfortable until we can come to the
Can
table
we call the vote?
Legitimate negotiation. And
Can we call the vote?
Of both sides.
Can we call the vote?
You don't have the floor.
If we could, Ms. Snyder, if you would finish on the motion being on the agenda or not, and then we will call the vote.
It's just a comment on reminding us that, legitimately speaking, we have to remember that our words incite things. Even if it's not a specific threat of violence, it incites things. When we have board members at our table talking the way they've talked in the last few months, it incites violence, even if it isn't a specific threat of violence. And if you're going to sit here and encourage the FBI to go after parents who are being attacked, being threatened as oppressors, being threatened for indoctrination, complaining about indoctrination in their schools at their local school board meeting, again, be consistent. And like I said, we're not going to stop.
Thank you,
Who
Ms. Snyder.
encouraged the FBI to go after anybody? This is ridiculous.
Ms. Tilley, if we could. We have a motion on the table. We have a second. The motion is simply whether we're going to put this item on the agenda. If we could have a roll call vote, please.
Dr. Rice, because
Yeah.
this is Pamela, and I know that I'm unable to vote. And sorry for getting on late, having technical difficulties. But I just want to say that that's a problem for the State Board of Education to negate people being run off the road, people's lives being threatened, and not seeing that as a problem. If I could and if I would be there, of course, I would vote no on this vote. But I just would hope that our board members do understand that violence against anyone is wrong. And we have had folks at the local level, at the state levels, lives threatened, but we've had people who have actually been tempted to be run off the road just recently, and that's just in the recent past.
Thank you,
Mr.
Dr.
Chairman.
Pugh. If we could have a roll call vote, please.
No, you allowed her to speak and not me?
I'm calling the question. If we could have a roll
You
call
don't have that
vote.
ability to call the question.
Call the question. I move
If we
to
could
call
have
the
a roll
question.
call vote,
So
please.
silencing again, this authoritarianism here.
Lipton,
It's fine.
voting virtual due to a medical condition.
No.
McMillan.
Yes.
Pritchett. No. Pugh, absent. Snyder, voting virtual due to a medical condition.
Yes.
Strayhorn, voting virtual due to a medical condition.
No.
Tilly, voting virtually due to a medical condition.
No.
Albridge.
No.
251. Motion fails.
May I please have a motion to approve the agenda and order of priorities?
So moved.
Moved by President Albrecht.
Second.
Seconded by Dr. Pritchett. Any discussion? Hearing none, if we could have a roll call vote, please.
Lipton.
Yes.
McMillan.
No.
Pritchett.
Yes.
Pugh, absent. Snyder.
No.
Strayhorn.
Yes.
Tilly.
Yes.
Albridge.
Yes.
Motion carries.
At this time, Marilyn Schneider, our State Board Executive, will introduce the members of the State Board of Education.
Happy to do so. To my left is Dr. Michael Rice. He's the state superintendent and chairman of the board. To his left is Dr. Cassandra Albrecht. She's the president of the board from Dearborn. She is physically in the meeting. Absent today, but is joining for discussion purposes, cannot vote, is Dr. Pamela Pugh. She's vice president of the board from Saginaw. Ms. Tiffany Tilley is secretary from Southfield. She is joining virtual by telephone due to a medical condition, is able to vote. Ms. Nikki Snyder, she's the board's legislative committee member from Dexter, and she is joining virtual due to a medical condition, is able to vote. Ms. Leah Porter, she is the 2021-22 Michigan Teacher of the Year. She teaches third grade at Wilcox Elementary School in Holt Public Schools. She is joining us in the room. As we go across the table, joining us virtually, the ex officio member of the board representing the governor. She's the governor's director of federal affairs, is Miss Patty Redinger. Ms. Ellen Kojan-Lipton is chair of the board's legislative committee. She's from Huntington Woods. She's joining us virtually due to a medical condition, is able to vote. Back in the room, Dr. Judith Pritchett. She's the board's NASB delegate and State Board of Education legislative committee member. She's from Washington Township, physically present in the room. Mr. Jason Strayhorn, board's legislative committee member from Novi, joining us virtually due to a medical condition, is able to vote. Next to me, physically in the room, Mr. Tom McMillan, the board's treasurer from Oakland Township. Thank you.
Thank you, Marilyn. The public may provide comments during the public participation portion of the meeting at approximately 1 p.m. Public comments will be accepted from those in person and online who register before 1 p.m. today. If you wish to offer public comment online during the meeting, send an email to schneiderm@michigan.gov. Provide your name, city, and telephone number from which you will be calling. You will receive an email with the call-in number and conference ID. To provide public comment in person, please complete a public comment form when you arrive here at the meeting location. These instructions are also listed on the MDE webpage at www.michigan.gov/MDE. The first item on the Committee of the Whole agenda is presentation on Michigan's top 10 strategic education plan, goal to expand early childhood learning opportunities. This presentation on Michigan's top 10 strategic education plan will highlight the goal to expand early childhood learning opportunities. It includes state data and provides insight into how expansion of the Great Start Readiness Program is happening from both the state and local perspectives. This is an informational presentation. No board action is required. Presenters are Dr. Scott Koenigsknecht, Deputy Superintendent of P20 System and Student Transitions, Mr. Richard Lauer, Director of Preschool and Out-of-School Time Learning, Ms. Gretchen Wagner, Director of Early Childhood Education for Bay Aranac Intermediate School District, and joining us live, albeit remote, from the classroom is Ms. Christine Whitmere, Director of Early Childhood Education for Heritage Southwest Intermediate School District. There will be a PowerPoint presentation. Presenters, welcome. It's good to have you today.
Thank you, Dr. Rice, and thank you for the board for allowing us to update you with regard to progress around Goal 1 of Michigan's Top 10 Strategic Education Plan, that being to expand early childhood learning opportunities. As Dr. Rice has said, I'm joined by Richard Lauer. Richard is going to start the presentation and give an update with regard to where we've been over the past year. And then we're very fortunate to be joined by two of our colleagues from the field, and they're going to give us a local perspective of GSRP. Gretchen Wagner, as Dr. Rice said, seated next to me, and Chris Whitmer, that will join us virtually. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Lauer.
Hello, everyone. Thank you. I'm here today to share with you an update on Michigan's top 10 strategic education plan goal, expanding early childhood opportunities, and its related metrics. The initial metrics that were chosen to start with are about Michigan's nationally recognized program, the Great Start Readiness Program, that we're all very proud of here in Michigan. There are three metrics associated with GSRP: number of children eligible, served in GSP, number of children, number and percent of children served in GSP, and then related to our national metric associated with how we fare against all the other states in the country, related to the NIER, National Institute for Early Education Research, out of Rutgers University. There are three sub-metrics. But today I'm going to focus primarily on the first metric related to status because of the pandemic, and how we are doing in serving children, and as well as how ISDs are navigating a substantial expansion of GSRP due to federal funding and the amount of $121 million in federal recovery funds as we are doing in this transitional year. So just a reminder, you've seen this before, how we've done over the last 5 years, pre-pandemic. This is nothing new. This is where we stood pre-pandemic. In terms of number of children eligible and number of and percent of children served pre-pandemic. These numbers come from the American Community Survey from the U.S. Census Bureau in terms of children eligible by ISD, and then actual number of children served are reported by each ISD to CEPI. And then just a reminder in terms of our ranking as first in the nation in quality, as meeting all 10 benchmarks of NIER's quality benchmarks, and we share that prestige with three other states at the moment, that we are tied with. But I do want to note here in terms of pre-pandemic, we are 21st in access, and then in funding, which is the amount per child, we are 14th in the nation. So, looking at the year of the pandemic and what happened in 2021, we went from 37,140, and GSRP, just like kindergarten, was impacted in enrollment. You see there's 26,969 was our enrollment last year of actual children. That was 42% down from 58%. And then, obviously, that's a 16% decrease. Fiscal year 21 statute was adjusted to maximize enrollment flexibility related to income, and we saw this decrease even with some income eligibility threshold flexibilities removed in statute. So challenges maintained despite flexibilities given in statute and flexibilities given by the department to the field as well. Wanted to share with you what that looks like going into next year, or this year, actually, since we're in October. We did receive an increase of $168 million total in federal pandemic relief, as well as state funds. So I mentioned $121 million. That's related to access. But we received, as you can see, $47.5 million in state school aid funds to adjust the per child amount to $8,700. That's to not only create an equity with K-12 based foundation allowance, but that also allows for increase in quality and other factors in GSRP. Ultimately, the $121 million, the intent is to expand access for all eligible GSRP children over the next 3 years for up to 22,000 children. So at this point in time, as of last week, this is what has occurred to date. You know, the school aid budget was signed back in July. A couple weeks later, we were able to do the calculations and release allocation amounts to the ISDs. And as of last week, we did a data dip. Our official data comes in February of next year, so we're doing some current ones. We have 31,400 children enrolled as of last week. That is nearly 5,000 over the total of last year. We're doing much better off. We're still down, but it's early in the year. And despite where we are, I wanted to bring a couple local perspectives to help share. I do have a few enrollment pieces because we did get some narratives. So 3 of them to represent the aggregate kind of thoughts of the state. Rural isolation has deepened as a result of COVID. I don't think that's a surprise here. And enrollment shortage is primarily due to being, as this one, being short 3 qualified teachers. So rooms have not opened. So when thinking about capacity, teacher shortage, just like it's impacting K-12, impacting early childhood as well. And then the third comment here, as you can read, also had families decline enrollment because they would not risk losing their childcare spot and nervous about schools closing due to COVID. So real issues addressing families, timing of the budget, timing of allocations, and programs opening. But again, that's in terms of what I can provide to you. More important is what we can share from a local perspective. That's why I have Gretchen here and Chris virtually with us from Gretchen, Bay Aranac, and Chris from Heritage Southwest. So I will shut up because they're more important voices than mine, in my opinion. So with that, I am going to, Chris, or allow Gretchen to start off here.
So hi again, my name is Gretchen Wagner. I'm from Bay Aranac ISD, the Director of Early Childhood Education there. And I just wanted to share our numbers. So we were allocated 567 spots this year. 93 were designated for GSRP and Head Start blends. And the remaining 474 are full-day preschool spots. Of those, 205 go to community-based organizations and 362 go to LEAs. We have 34 total classrooms and 12 subrecipients. So we, as Richard shared, have openings like probably most of our colleagues across the state, but we utilize an intake system and have daily intakes come through. We work diligently to find spots for those kids. Most of our openings are ones here, one there, and then our biggest LEA has the most, which would be expected. And then we did just open another classroom, and so working diligently to fill that. But again, also as Richard shared, we have teacher shortage, support shortage, so that also impacts our ability to fill classrooms to their capacity. So now, in a minute, Richard's gonna share a video that we prepared for you. We will see small group time in a classroom at Bay City Public Schools. We will see journaling at Standish Sterling Community Schools, and morning message from one of our CBOs, KinderCare. So, Richard, you want to start it for me?
Sure. So this should play. No, not sure
Jen's coming.
why this didn't reduce.
Okay, let's see.
I minimized and then it, it escaped maybe.
Okay, there we go. Now you go ahead.
Perfect. There it is.
Small group time is when teachers can build on skills that students already know. This time looks different day to day. Teachers can plan and scaffold for their students as needed and use different strategies to help support their learning and understanding of different skills, anywhere from fine motor to literacy skills and math skills.
So we're ready to start. Oh, we find the metal part and hold them. Today at small group, we worked on practicing with scissors. So I gave everybody their own scissors and a piece of paper, and we worked on doing straight lines and curved lines. If they had a hard time with the regular scissors, I do have loop scissors in my classroom that we tried to use. And I did use hand over hand to help the students who were struggling, and just watched what they did with the scissors. Hannah is running around like this. Somebody could get hurt with the points, right? So we want to always make sure we hold our scissors like this. Stick your thumb at the top, and then your other fingers at the bottom. Close, open, close. Oh, it looks like
All of our teaching teams in Van Arnett County have been trained in the essential practices for literacy for pre-kindergarten. One of those practices includes a focus on writing, so journal time is a part of our daily schedule. Every child every day is provided time to draw a picture and write the words for their picture in his or her own journal.
And the purple one and the green one, the bigger.
The teachers then can provide individualized support based on children's development in the writing process.
Write the word house on this line.
House. So journal time is done every day with the same group of kids for a long period of time, so you get to know them and their needs. You might have 3-year-olds in the group and they're just learning the writing process and that their writing is meaningful. So getting them to put their ideas down on paper is what we're working on. And then there's some that are, almost turning 5 who are at the stage where they can start phonetically spelling out words. So just supporting and scaffolding that. I might script them with exactly what they say so that they can see that these words hold meaning.
Is that what you said? A big ear.
And a big water and like this big.
They can draw whatever they want in their journals, and we just kind of build upon what they already are capable of. Some of them come in here and they want to draw a dragon, but they have no idea how to draw the dragon, so I might, well, where do you want to start? What do you want to draw first? The body. Let's draw the body then. And then the next step might be what comes after the body. Let's draw the head. Well, I don't know how to put the teeth in there, and so what do we need before we can put the teeth in? So it's just about wherever they start at. Some are 3, some are 4, some are 5. The ones that are turning 5 are more able to phonetically spell beginning, middle, ending sounds. The 3-year-olds, it might just be the beginning sound that we're working on, and then I would just script the rest of the words. So we do have a couple kids with special needs in our classroom. One of them, he needed a little extra support with the timeline for drawing and writing, and so I had a visual schedule made and a sand timer so he knows for how long he is expected to sit for journal time, and it works really well.
Hello, hello. Can you clap your hands? Hello, hello.
During transition times in preschool, we're trying to be mindful of adding more math and literacy skills. And so we've incorporated an alphabet chart in our classroom at large group and using children's name cards. And so they're getting to recognize the letters in their names. And then we're utilizing the alphabet chart so that they can match letters that are in their names with the letters that are on the alphabet chart.
We got an apple from the tree. He ate them all.
morning message is a time for teachers to be intentional in teaching math and literacy skills. It's also a great opportunity to build on and enhance the students' vocabulary.
It says, give the tree a little jiggle. Jiggle, 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 jiggle. Shake that tree. Jiggle, jiggle. The bees came out. Charlotte noticed bees.
So that's our video. Thank you so much for the opportunity. And I just would end my portion with, in one of our locals, we have a couple tuitions.
Hello!
And I'm fortunate to be able to secure a placement for my own son. And so I truly believe in the program and appreciate your support.
So then, we're on to Chris.
Escape, I think.
Thank you, Richard. Good morning, everyone. My name is Chris Whitmire, and I am the Director of Early Childhood Education for Lewis Cass ISD, which is now Heritage Southwest ISD. And we are here live this morning at Patrick Hamilton Elementary School, which is part of the Dowagiac Union Schools right here in southwestern Michigan. Patrick Hamilton is an elementary that serves about 250 children, and 42% of them are white, 18% black, 18% Hispanic. We have about 12% that are a mixed race and 3% that are Native American. We have classrooms here for GSRP and Strong Beginnings, and we thought that we would show you the future of early childhood education with some of our newest staff and some of our newest programs. It's important for you to know that our program is small. We are a county of 50,000 people. The Heritage ISD serves 4 local school districts, and we currently have 14 classrooms, including 3 that are Strong Beginnings. So we're small, but we directly serve our classrooms, and we truly believe in the power of early childhood education to change lives for children and their families in our communities and across Michigan. So welcome. We're going to take you into our classrooms, and we're going to show you some of the specific things we do in addressing early childhood education with math in particular. So come with me as we enter the school. And I'm going to change my camera orientation right now. Let's see if I can do that. Can you help me change my camera orientation? I'm just going to move right down this hallway. And what you're going to see first thing as children enter our school, Patrick Hamilton Elementary, is you're going to see what we call letter links. This is the first time children come into the school. They will see their name. They will see a symbol that connects to their name, and they will see the first letter of their name in terms of literacy. So they are immediately immersed in literacy that's important to them and their learning. So we're coming down the lockers, and we're going to come and stop for a moment and visit with our early childhood specialist, Carla Padu. And Carla's going to speak to us this morning about what we're showing you here today.
Great. Good morning, everyone. So glad to have you here at Patrick Hamilton. So we have some key elements for you to look for as you journey with Chris into our classrooms. And I have them up here on the whiteboard. And so the first one is learning environment. We are really hoping that you'll look for in our learning environments that they are divided into interest areas, toy area, block area, house area, art area. Look for that. An abundance of open-ended materials in our classrooms that children can choose to work with. We are very intentional about finding materials that reflect the children and families that we serve here in Dowagiac and Cass County. You will see children's work displayed in the environment. You will also see real materials rather than replicas, such as hair dryers with the cords cut off, toasters, cords cut off, cameras and phones. So things to look for in the environment. Number 2, daily routine. We have a consistent daily routine in our classrooms. We know that provides security for children. They know what to expect. We know when they feel secure, they are more apt to learn. The daily routine is posted for children at their eye level. And part of our daily routine is that we do have 60 minutes of work time. You could also call that free choice time. 60 minutes of outdoor time as well. Third element we want you to look for, adult-child relationships. Look at those interactions between our teachers and our children. Our teachers are responsive. They are supportive. They are respectful. Our teachers model the conflict resolution process in our classrooms. Our teachers support problem-solving abilities and creative thinking, and I think you're going to see that during our small group time in our classrooms. Our teachers model empathy toward others. Overall, our goal is to have purposeful interactions throughout the day, no matter what part of the daily routine is happening. Fourth key element, intentional teaching. And again, when you go into the classrooms, you are going to see our teachers leading small group time. They will be using the Numbers Plus curriculum from HighScope. We're excited for you to see that intentional teaching happening in the classroom. And our friends, the last one, engaging families. Our classrooms here at Patrick Hamilton have daily interactions, face-to-face with families at drop-off and pickup, numerous communication tools that we use with families, classroom tours before the school year even begins, home visits, family conferences, and Chris has also provided you with a link to storyboards in the agenda of this portion of your meeting today. It's an electronic newsletter that is sent home to families weekly with the goal of giving them a glimpse of what is occurring in the classroom each week. So we hope you take some time, look for these elements, enjoy your time in the classrooms.
Thank you, Carla.
You are so welcome.
So board, we're going to move into our GSRP classroom. This classroom has been with us this is their 4th year, and they are in small group time with HighScope's Numbers Plus curriculum. They are studying in here data analysis and measurement. Let's see what we can find.
Okay, you don't have to be that part. You're gonna name it Austin?
I'm gonna name my
Two bears. Here, Hadley, you choose 2 bears. You're gonna name that one Luca? Or how many of this size did you need?
I need 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
All right, you 10 of that size. Go shopping so you can get what you need to build your house. Right here. Go shopping. Go to the lumberyard and get what you need. Here's some extras. Get your materials that you'll need to build your house.
Board, there's an extra person in here today. We told you that we would show you the future of early childhood education. We have a student here from SMC, Annie, and Annie is supporting the children in the classroom. There's Annie right there looking at us.
Do you want to build it on your board so it'll stay up?
If you look over, you'll see our daily routine. You'll see our message board. You'll see fabulous literature that supports the children. And the children in this small group are studying data analysis. They are building, they are creating tally marks, and the teacher, Jennifer Stolpe, is scaffolding their learning. This is a Javion. Thank you, Javion. They said hi. We're going to go around the classroom a little bit farther. And we're going to just take a peek out the window because you'll wonder, what does an outside environment look like for young children? So if you look across to the gated area over there, that's our outdoor learning environment. There are picnic tables out there to support literacy. We have fine and gross motor types of things, bikes out there. There's a mud kitchen, hippity balls in a natural setting. We're going to sweep around to our next small group. You can see that Carla was telling you about real items found in the classroom, the toasters, the cups. And let's see what this small group's all about here. This is Miss Madeline.
1, 2, 3, 4, 6.
This is Numbers Plus Curriculum. This is a focus on measurement. Hi, Katie. Thank you. Good morning. Thank you, everybody. All right. I see. You can see that there's an abundance of materials. Children are prominently featured in the classroom. There's materials throughout the classroom and evidence of learning happening everywhere. Children's letter links are used throughout the entire classroom to show attendance. Children sign in using their letter links. And in general, are involved in active learning throughout their entire day. We're going to move through this classroom and come out here and say hi to Carla again. And you're going to see our next row of letter links for our youngest and brightest learners with our youngest and brightest team, which is our Strong Beginnings for 3-year-old children. This is a pilot research study, and we are so pleased to have the first graduates of our classroom be in that GSRP classroom that you were just in. Teachers are reporting that after 80 days of learning last year, starting in January, the Strong Beginnings children were much more prepared to be in the 4-year-old classroom. So these are 3-year-olds, and we're entering their small group time, which focuses on algebra and geometry. Let's see what's in here.
It is the shape of a TV. And I know this one is a square because it has 1, 2, 3, 4 sides. Aubrey, it is the same shape as a TV. You got it. TVs are squares sometimes. So I'm going to give you some circles and some squares. I'm going to tell you a story about a little caterpillar. And this caterpillar, he was super hungry, okay? So one day he was walking along, and then he ate a worm. Maybe it was a square worm. You got it.
This is a lesson on patterning and algebra with Miss Maya.
So he ate a circle, but he still wasn't full. So then he ate another square, another circle, and another square. I noticed something about my caterpillar. He is now a pattern. A pattern is when it repeats over and over. It keeps happening. It does. So this one goes circle, square, circle, square, circle, square. What do you think he might eat next? He might eat another circle.
We're going to move through the classroom. And you can see, once again, an intentionally designed environment. And we are now on to a geometry lesson in early childhood.
It's a triangle? What shape do you think it is? Aubrey? Yep, that's a circle shape, isn't it? And what shape do you think this is? It's a triangle shape, right? You ever had a triangle shape cookie before? Now I'm going to give you. You had a triangle shape cookie before?
Yeah, I got a cookie to make here.
What kind of shapes have you had? That's okay. What shape?
Again, you're noticing the intentionally designed environment, children's work everywhere, a great use of letter lengths, intentionally designed areas. And we also feature in Strong Beginnings, a key new element is the addition of a family liaison, who is a person that is designed to work with the families to reduce barriers that they may have prior to their child coming to school in learning. So barriers with transportation, homelessness, food shortages, things like that. This is the Strong Beginnings classroom. We are very thankful for our partners with High Scope who have helped us to, with curriculum, helped us to train the teachers for this classroom. And we also want to give a shout out to the Pokagon Band of the Potawatomi Indians who have provided us with some of the GSRP equipment in that classroom. So we're back out here, and I'm going to come back around to the table. And we're going to sit for a minute with Carla and I. How are we doing on time, Carla?
I think we have a couple minutes.
Okay.
I think.
And we would like to know if you were able to find some examples of high quality learning.
There we go.
What can you tell us? What did you find? Oh, I think I need to sit closer to you.
Yeah, here.
There we go. Who can tell us an example of some high quality learning that they found in the classroom?
I saw the environment to be rich with print and books around in every area that I saw. I was spotting all sorts of titles that are just fabulous for kids, so I was really excited about that.
Thank you for sharing. And we think about literature as being healthy for your brain. So we promote the healthiest, highest quality literature, and we also provide books for families each month to build their libraries with high quality literature. We think low quality literature is like eating junk food. So we support high quality literature in the classroom. So that's why you see that emphasis. The Strong Beginnings classroom has our very youngest teachers. They've only been teaching together for less than 3 weeks, and they are both under the age of 22. So when I said the future of education, you're literally seeing the youngest, best, brightest coming in and choosing to work in our classrooms. So we're very proud of our staff. Is there anyone else that saw anything that maybe one more observation? Is there anyone else that saw something that jumped out at them?
I noticed small group work and just the interactive nature of what you guys are doing.
Exactly. That's called, what we would call that in High Scope is active learning. There's active manipulation and choice involved, people, materials, ideas, places. Our goal is to develop thinkers, creatives, poets, artists, engineers for the future. So we're so proud of our classrooms, and we want to say, Dr. Rice, Dr. Kay, and the whole board, thank you for inviting us for this amazing opportunity, and we appreciate your time. So thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you to your team. So thank you, Chris, and thank you to your team. Thank you, Gretchen, for joining us as well. And at this time, we'll entertain any questions that you may have as a board.
Board members, any questions? Mr. McMillan.
So how much choice does a parent have for their early child care or child learning? Is it, in a particular region, is it one area, or we don't have a voucher program, right?
No, we have GSRP programs that are run by traditional school districts and ISDs, and then we have GSRP programs that are run by CBOs or community-based organizations. And so when we talk about GSRP, they're delivered via those two mechanisms.
Okay. So is there some choice the parents have as far as sending them here or here?
There's choice whether they enroll them in a CBO or community-based organization or their local school district. There's also private, obviously, preschools as well. That's outside the realm of GSRP, but
okay.
Yes, there's choice.
Just to note that there is choice in some communities. In other communities, which are very sparsely populated, there isn't that choice. And we've certainly heard from them about the challenges of being in rural, remote jurisdictions and not having those choices because there aren't the economies of scale that permit it.
Okay. But I mean, I know there are other states, don't they, that have some kind of a voucher where a private a private business can get into the, can provide another alternative for
The CBOs, when I talk about community-based organizations, are private providers.
Okay.
And on average, for profit. Okay. And on average, about 30% of those GSRP slots on average across the state go to those CBOs. Okay.
All right, thank you.
And that, Dr. Koenigsegg, if I recall correctly, is statutory.
That's correct.
Okay, very
Actually,
good.
it's slightly above. Is it 32%?
It's almost 32% at this point.
Okay.
So there's a statutory element of choice within the Great Start Readiness Program. Yeah, thank you very much. Ms. Lipton, and then President Aldrich, and then Dr. Pritchett.
Thank you so much for what a wonderful presentation and really a very, very, very good look into what the future holds. That's really very, very exciting to see. The question that I have is, back at the beginning of the presentation, we talked about one of the challenges being the teacher shortage, and that I understand. Could you expand a little bit on other access challenges that that are out there? We talked about I guess I'm just trying to understand what is the full range of challenges with respect to access that are presenting. Is it one of funding in terms of having more slots? Is it one of recruitment? What does that access challenge actually look like?
Mr. Lauer.
So, along with asking ISDs across the state on their enrollment numbers and how they've been enrolling across Part Day and School Day in our GSP Head Start Blend programs, we did ask them what their challenges were. And in addition to understand some of the rural isolation issues and understanding the transportation is part of that in some parts of the state. And although we did get a substantial increase in funding for expanding access to programming does not guarantee transportation access. Statute currently does have a separate set aside, but it's only $10 million compared to the 400 at this point $1 million for programming, more or less. So that gap does not guarantee access to many families across the state. Yes, workforce shortage, and I've been working across the department with Career Tech Ed, with Office of Educational Excellence on various strategies on changing the future workforce coming into these early childhood programs and understanding flexibilities, understanding different enrollment options. But then we also have aspects of, due to pandemic, supply challenges. Chris, I know, has that issue in Heritage Southwest, where opening up classrooms, not only with the teacher shortage, but being able to open up facilities and have actual equipment for learning in those facilities. You can't necessarily open up classrooms if you don't have the equipment in the facilities for the children's learning. That has limited in some. Now, Chris, I know you opened some classrooms with some limited equipment. You borrowed from other classrooms, I believe you said, to fill those classrooms because you did have some teachers, but you were still having some supply chain issues. Is that correct?
Yes, Richard, if I could just speak to that briefly. We had 6 GSRP, and due to the expansion, we were able to launch 3 more GSRP classrooms this year. We are over 88% full with GSRP, and we are 100% full with waiting lists with our strong beginning. So there is a very vibrant interest. We pursue recruiting and enrollment with a dashboard every month. Our teachers all know what their numbers are. And then we have very deep roots in the community to develop those partnerships. But that being said, it took us, you have to start with staff in terms of development. So we were developing teachers in the pipeline in January to prepare them for the potential that they could come on board as staff in the fall. So we were talking with them many, many months ago for that moment to occur with the possibility of that. But then we also you get very creative in small areas. I very regularly do dives into pole barns looking for old furniture. We will talk to anybody about anything to have the appropriate equipment in our classrooms in order to launch them. So it's a layering effect of staff first, then the furniture, equipment, flesh that out. And then, of course, the children. It's a very strong recruiting push that we do. So, again, we're a little low in a few areas, but not many. And we think that that's part of our success. That being said, we do experience staffing issues continually related to the pandemic and just overall weariness with the pandemic. And we also experience supply chain issues with literally things like crayons and markers not coming in to the classrooms. So then again, you got to be creative. So we go out and we make things happen.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We have President Albridge, Dr. Pritchett, 3 more minutes on this topic, and then we're pivoting to our next topic. President Albridge.
I'll be very quick because you've already answered my question. So I just want to say that I thought this was a fantastic presentation. I love the being able to go into the classroom and see the engaged learning that's happening. You guys did a great job. Thank you so much.
Thank you, President Albridge. Dr. Pritchett.
I certainly echo that. There's nothing better than starting out the morning with children. I just wanted to clarify the 8,700 per, I never know how to say that, but that is for full day or
That's for a school day length program, yes.
Right. There are still part-time openings or programs also,
and they're
right?
funded at half that.
Right, that's what I thought. Okay, I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you very much.
But Dr. Pritchett, just a point of clarification, this is the first time in our history that GSRP is funded at the same level as K-12. That's a big deal for preschool. More importantly, it's a big deal for our children because it ensures a higher quality program for them, higher quality staff for them, higher quality materials for them, the absence of the need to subsidize 4-year-old preschool with K-12 revenue. So that's a big deal. And we are so appreciative of the governor's leadership, of the legislature's leadership in providing these resources, a signature moment for the state. And I hope very much that in the not too distant future, when we look at that near chart, that Mr. Lauer referred to. And we see not only that we're first in the country in terms of quality, but that we move that 21st in access to 15th in access to 10th in access to 5th in access, and finally first in access. And I agree with you, Dr. Pritchett. There's something very grounding about hearing from and seeing our teachers and our young people in action. Thank you so much for a great presentation. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is COVID updates. In Michigan, since our last state board meeting, the number of COVID-19 cases has risen from 976,505 to 1,064,557, an increase of more than 88,000, or approximately 9%, in the last 4 weeks, with the number of deaths increasing from 20,535 to 21,349, a rise of 814, or roughly 4%, also in the last 4 weeks. Case positivity and death rates have all increased since the last state board meeting. In total, more than 10 million doses of vaccine have been administered to Michigan residents, an increase of approximately 300,000 doses since the last state board meeting. Worldwide, 6.5 billion vaccine doses have been administered, including 746 million, just shy of a quarter billion, since the last state board meeting 4 weeks ago. Those protected by vaccinations are far less likely to get infected, let alone experience substantial sickness, hospitalization, and death. Research does indicate that fully vaccinated individuals not only can experience breakthrough cases, albeit in very low percentages, but can transmit the virus. That said, unvaccinated individuals are far more likely to be vulnerable than are vaccinated individuals for sickness, hospitalization, and death. According to the Johns Hopkins Coronavirus Resource Center, worldwide, there have been more than 238 million COVID cases and roughly 4.86 million deaths associated with COVID as of last night. Nationally, there have been 44.4 million cases and 714,000 deaths, with 18.7% of the world's cases and 14.7% of the world's deaths associated with COVID. The U.S. continues to lead the world in both categories. In our layering of mitigation strategies recommended by the Centers for Disease Control, the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, vaccination is clearly of paramount importance. The growing number of Michiganders who are getting vaccinated are protecting not simply themselves, but others as well. You're helping to reduce sickness, hospitalizations, and death, and to increase the number of days and hours our children and staff, like Ms. Porter, are in person in school. The layering of mitigation strategies requires masks, social distancing, proper hygiene, and at times testing and quarantining as well. Given the increase in COVID-19 cases, the following local health departments have mandated masks for at least the elementary school children in their counties: Benzie-Leelanau, Genesee, Ingham, Kalamazoo, Kent, Marquette, Ottawa, Oakland, Washtenaw, Wayne, and the Health Department of Northwest Michigan, which includes Antrim, Charlevoix, Emmett, and Otsego counties. Additionally, the following school districts not covered by a local health department mandate have imposed their own mask mandates: Detroit, Traverse City, Grand Ledge, Saginaw, Saginaw Township, Monroe, Jackson, Midland, Battle Creek, Alpena, Muskegon City, Mount Pleasant, Mona Shores, Bangor, East Point, Fitzgerald, Van Dyke, Eaton Rapids, South Haven, South Lake, Manistee area, Mount Clemens, and Norway Vulcan. All told, more than 700,000 students continue to be covered by a mask mandate, including children in most of the largest counties, but for Macomb, in the state. In communities with rising COVID numbers, masks are a necessary part of our mitigation effort. As I mentioned last time, Board, in spite of these obvious challenges, I'm optimistic about this year. We're going to have more children learning, more teachers teaching, in more schools for more hours of more days than last year. That's an optimism-producing moment. We have a rising consciousness in the state about the importance of preschool. We just heard a terrific presentation associated with that first goal of the state strategic education plan. The need to address student and staff mental health challenges, part of the third goal of the state strategic education plan, and the need to address teacher shortages, or the seventh goal of the state strategic education plan. This year, though, is not without substantial challenges. Last week, I spent 3 days in the Western UP, most of my time in Copper Country Intermediate School District and in Gogebic-Ontonagon Intermediate School District. I had the opportunity to visit 8 local school districts: Stanton Township School, Hancock Middle/High School, Calumet, Laurium, Keweenaw Public Schools, Dollar Bay, Tamarack City Schools, Ontonagon Area K-12 School, Ewan Trout Creek K-12 School, Wakefield Marinisco School District, and Ironwood Area School District, and the 2 intermediate school districts, Copper Country and Gogebic-Ontonagon, and to interact with hundreds of students, teachers, support staff, and administrators. I also had dinner with all 7 Upper Peninsula ISD superintendents. It was a frenzied 3 days. I learned an enormous amount on the school visits from staff members who were open about the pride that they had in their schools, as well as the challenges associated with their schools. Among the major challenges is the issue of teacher shortage. Again, the 7th goal of the state strategic education plan, the addressing thereof. Board, you may recall that when I began in this position more than 2 years ago, I was struck by how many legislators refused to acknowledge a teacher shortage. Educators across the state knew there was a shortage and said so. Some legislators acknowledged the shortage, like Representative Aaron Miller, Representative Brad Paquette, both former teachers, and Representative Cheryl Kennedy, a former teacher and administrator, now our legislative liaison in the department. Some, incredibly, did not. One of the ironies of the pandemic has been that one rarely hears anyone denying the teacher shortage now. Last summer, for the first time, the state legislature dedicated $5 million for teacher retention. This summer, the state legislature earmarked $1.5 million for Grow Your Own programs, largely but not exclusively to help support staff members become teachers. While these are important investments, they need to be very substantially expanded. This year, exacerbated by the pandemic, the teacher shortage has become more difficult in many districts across the state. In the western UP, as far away from Lansing as you can get in the state, the teacher shortage is a problem. It's real. This isn't my opinion, although it is. It's the opinion of every administrator with whom I spoke in the western UP, without exception. Board, as you are aware, the department has encouraged Grow Your Own programs for support staff who want to be teachers. We've encouraged and incentivized the creation of Grow Your Own programs for students who have an interest in a teaching career. We've approved several alternative route certification programs, including 2 in the last year in Detroit Public Schools Community District and in New Paradigm for Education. We've created greater flexibility in special education staffing. We've promoted the profession through Proud Michigan Educator and begun Welcome Back Proud Michigan Educator to reduce or eliminate the professional development necessary for recertification for those whose certification has lapsed. 147 districts have applied for recertification for 206 former educators as a result of Welcome Back Proud Michigan Educator. So much more needs to be done, however. Studies of young people who are looking at careers, as well as people who leave education, indicate that compensation, particularly for entry-level teachers, is the biggest reason for individuals not entering the profession and for those leaving the profession. That's one of the many reasons that I'm so grateful for the leadership of the governor and those in the legislature who supported the highest per-pupil foundation allowance in the state's history, to which Dr. Pritchett referred, $87 per student, pre-K-12 in the state for this school year. That's why I'm grateful for federal pandemic relief funding as well. Each of these funding sources has helped us begin to better serve children this year. The Michigan Department of Education can't create a labor market, a function of so many different forces. but it can work with a variety of partners and stakeholders on the teacher shortage issue. It can encourage, coax, cajole, push, and prod. It can suggest, recommend, and use its bully pulpit in a variety of ways. So what else, board, can and should be done? At the state level, we need a major investment of federal pandemic relief funding and state funding to help create, recruit, and retain teachers. We need major investments for tuition reimbursement to help recruit people into the teaching profession and for loan forgiveness to help retain them. We need large grow-your-own programs for support staff who want to become teachers and for students who are exploring a career in teaching. We also need to continue to change state law to provide us with more flexibility. Board, you may recall that you recently heard a presentation on educator workforce data. That was from Dr. Chapman, our new deputy superintendent, Ms. Leah Breen, our director of the Office of Educator Excellence. You may also recall that approximately 27% of those who became certified to teach in 2019-2020, more than 1,000 teachers came from outside the state. 27% of all newly certificated teachers last year, more than 1,000, came from outside the state. Well, we've had substantial success with reciprocity. We need to reduce barriers and create greater flexibility to open up the possibility of more out-of-state educators, at least in the short term. At least in the short term. We'll be working with the legislature on this effort this fall. I want to thank you. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them at this time. Going once and twice. Board is helping us get back on schedule. Go ahead, board. Okay, very good. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Next item on our agenda is presentation on proposed changes to Perkins 5 core performance indicators, state-determined levels of performance. This is a presentation on proposed changes to 2 Perkins 5 core performance indicators. Staff will provide a brief overview and timeline.
Got it. I think that's aimed at us.
Yeah. Following a period of public comment, there will be a request for board approval during the March 8, 2022 board meeting. Presenters are, backed by popular demand, Dr. Scott Koenigschneck, Deputy Superintendent of P20 System and Student Transitions, and also here by popular demand, Dr. Brian Piles, our Director of Career and Technical Education. Welcome.
Good morning, everybody.
Thank you, Dr. Rice, and thank you to the board for allowing us some time with you this morning to talk about proposed revisions to our Perkins 5 performance indicators. So under Perkins 5, a state may revise after public comment state-determined levels of performance if unanticipated circumstances arise. After last year, a year of school closings and distance learning, the pandemic certainly resulted in disrupted learning for some of our students. Therefore, the academic proficiency indicators need to be adjusted to reflect these impacts. If this sounds familiar to you, Dr. Piles and I were in front of you in December to ask for changes to the post-program placement indicator, which went out for public comment, and then we came back to you in April to approve those changes. So if this sounds familiar to you, it is part 2. This time we're looking to change 2 indicators regarding academic proficiency, and Dr. Piles is going to walk us through those.
Yes, sir. Thank you. As you will recognize, our top 10 strategic education plan goals on the screen. Career and technical education focuses on expanding our post-secondary and secondary learning opportunities, increasing the number of students who graduate from high school with a new focus on credential attainment, supporting those 3 goals. We are here today to let you know that we're going to go out for public comment on the academic proficiency in reading and the academic proficiency in mathematics. The pandemic had resulted in a significant learning loss for students based on the research that was conducted by my staff. And so we are looking at revising reading and math based on those findings. The state-determined levels of performance are measured using our CTE program concentrators. At the beginning of the Perkins 5 cycle, we went out for public comment and set those measures. And so now we'll be going out to set those measures again based at the concentrator level. This is the official definition on the concentrator definition and how we determine proficiency, and it is based on the concentrators as measured by the ESSA indicators academically in 11th grade. Here are the proposed changes. We are proposing to change the current state-determined level of performance from 58.25% to 40%, and change the current mathematics from 34.25 to 17%. You'll notice different from the previous presentation that we're maintaining those numbers over 2 years. When we presented in December, you may recall that it was a 3-year term, and we ratcheted those numbers back up. The reason that we're proposing to leave these the same is because the learning loss is significant, and we're not anticipating great learning gains in the next 2 years. Also, within the Perkins legislation, at the end of 2023, we need to go out and do public comment again for the next 5 years of core performance indicators. And so regardless, we'll be going back out at the end. You also may remember a question that was asked last time I was here, which was, what is the impact of schools not meeting these indicators? And if they don't meet these indicators, we have to do regional improvement plans across the state, which takes time away from students. Then we have to submit a plan to the federal government, and there is the potential to have our funding reduced. And so we want to ensure that we're setting equitable targets for our students, and that we're protecting the funding that comes into our great state to fund our career and technical education programs. Some of the research also indicates that our students, among low-income Black and Hispanic students, the amount of learning loss is expected to be the equivalent of 7 months of learning. Black students may fall further behind as much as 10.3, and Hispanic students 9.2. And so we really want to make sure that we're all keeping an eye on equity within our current technical education program and thinking of all of our students that are in current technical education. We're also concerned about the graduation rate, as that's forecasted also to be reduced as a result of COVID. Our timeline was to present to you today, go out for public hearing October 14th through December 14th. Then we'll go through and we will assemble those comments and then bring them back and present to you on March 8th. What questions do you have? And we have a list of citations as part of your PowerPoint too, if you're interested.
Thank you, Dr. Kenishnek. Dr. Piles, questions from board members or comments from board members? Dr. Pritchett.
Thank you. So you are recommending that we adjust the 2 indicators, ELA and mathematics, for a 2-year period and then revisit it at that point by examining the data that we have at that point, or?
Legislatively, we're required to re-examine it at that point.
Okay.
So we'll look at the data, and from the data, we'll put together a public comment, public hearing, and then go back out again.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Other questions for board members or comments?
I have a question.
Ms. Snyder.
I would like to ask if the data is available on an annual basis.
The data that we use to determine
the data that you have to analyze at that 2-year point legislatively, is that available in 1 year?
Oh, every year there is. And we suspect that there'll be more data available in the next 6 to 12 months regarding learning loss in the pandemic, and our research staff will be monitoring that.
It's just, this is a, this is just, I would say that this presentation is one of the things that makes everything that's happened just sort of, it's just sad to sort of reflect on the learning loss. But I would say that if we wanted to try to move forward in a progressive way, we could look at the data a year from now or even sooner, even though legislatively it's only required in 2 years, so that there is more of a reaction where it's necessary for on the kids' behalf. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And my research staff will continue to look at the data, and depending upon the data, we may need to revisit it again in 12 months, which would require public comment, public hearing, which we would do if necessary.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Snyder. We, just to note, we're looking at data 12 months of the year in the department. There's a rolling data analysis that takes place within the department. Ms. Lipton, to you for a question.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm just curious, in terms of the data that you look at, do you get input from the employer side? In other words, are you looking at the alignment of the information that the student is learning through their CTE program, and then how they are performing or aligned on the employer end of things, which I think is particularly important in the CTE space?
We do that on a regular basis. Through our Perkins funding, we have career pathway grants, which identify post-secondary recognized credentials, which include employer forums, where they provide input on the standards that are taught within our CTE programs. Also, each of our CTE programs is required to meet with local business and industry 2 times per year. And as part of that process, share their instructional standards that they're delivering, also looking at instructional techniques and student placement, whether it be into post-secondary or employment.
And just as a follow-up, any concerns raised that you're aware of so far on the employer side to any of these changes? Just, anecdotally, students that are participating in the scholarship program that I'm involved with, many of them do go into CTE, and the data that you're showing globally, I mean, we're seeing it a little bit, but the students are still able to perform on, very well on the apprenticeship exams, and our placements, have not suffered. So I'm just curious to know if there's been any pushback on the employer end, because it's possible that although this might look like a learning loss or a drop with respect to the CTE space, it may not provide a barrier for students entering apprenticeship or post-secondary employment opportunities.
So when we did our public hearing, public comment for post-program placement, we received support in changing those numbers. These numbers with the 1S1 and 2S1 is English and math. And so this is more how well they're doing on their ESSA examinations that they take in the 11th grade, not this particular CTE standards. Our employers right now are most concerned that they can't find enough people to complete the work, not the quality of the people that we're providing through the worker pipeline avenues that we have in partnership with Labor and Economic Opportunity in our post-secondary programs.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lipton. Other board members? Once and twice. One more opportunity. Seeing no one else. Doctor and Doctor, thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you. It was good to see everybody. Have a great day.
For the next item on today's agenda is discussion on Michigan State Board of Education board norms. You began this discussion last month at our state board meeting. Dr. Albrecht will lead the discussion on board norms, and we'll be looking at the proposed board norms one by one. President Albrecht.
Thank you. So yes, as Dr. Rice mentioned, we presented these last month. This month I was hoping that we could spend a little time going through all 9 of the bullets quickly. I don't anticipate that this will be a tremendous conversation, but I wanted to get a sense on each bullet point if there were any issues or problems that needed to be addressed, so that we can update if necessary and then bring back for a vote at a future meeting. I don't think we necessarily need to wordsmith these at this meeting. I just would rather have, if possible, but of course it's up to you, just an understanding of where people are with respect to each bullet. So like I said, we can update if necessary or move forward. So with that, I can read off the first bullet point and just let me know if we're good to just move on to the second bullet point. So the first bullet point is board members will be courteous to guests, presenters, staff, and each other. Anyone have any comments on that?
What does that mean? Has there been any example of uncourteousness that you've seen in the last year? So it would help me know what you mean.
So I can tell you the definition of courteous is having or showing good manners or being polite. So do you think there's been any issues there?
Well, I mean, no, I think, no, I mean, I think good manners, nobody's, and polite. Yeah, I mean, you know, politics can be a little bit, you know, assertive and direct, but have you seen any examples of uncourteousness?
In presenting this is not have I seen examples. These would be simply board norms. So if we haven't had experience with that, then we would just be continuing with our with the way that we operate. But I do believe that I've been on this board for 14 years, and I will say the way we treat each other now is vastly different than the way we treated each other when I started on this board. You know, whether you want to call that courteousness or not, I do think that we need to, you know, it would be nice if we were a little more respectful of each other. And so I don't think there's anything wrong with putting that in writing.
Okay.
So any other thoughts or questions, comments on this first?
Okay. Seeing none. Second bullet is board members will maintain civility when facing opposing views and will strive to value all opinions. Any thoughts, questions, concerns? Okay. Moving on, board members will speak one at a time only after they are called upon by the chair.
Well, what if they're not called upon by the chair? Like the chair refuses to call upon them?
Is that an issue?
It was about an hour ago.
Well, you spoke several times.
I don't know, but okay, so only after, so you want to clarify that, so there's a certain amount that you can be called upon and then you're done?
It's up, you know what? This is up to the board.
Just asking, what happens if the chair doesn't do what the norm is? What happens?
Would you like to add another bullet that the chair
must call upon a member if they're, you know, I mean, I guess only after they're called upon by the chair, who must acknowledge, you know, call upon anybody who wants to speak?
So I would just,
If we could, we're gonna go one at a time, please. I think
Sure.
that's the point of the norm. Mr. McMillan, to you. And then if you'd be kind enough, if you are at a distance, to ask to participate via chat, that would be helpful. Thank you.
I'm done. You asked a suggestion. I made a suggestion, maybe called upon by the chair, who will call upon any board member who asks to be acknowledged and speak.
Okay.
That would be my amendment.
Okay.
Ms. Lipton, then Ms. Snyder.
I think that the way that the board norm is written is self-explanatory and should be sufficient to conduct the meeting appropriately. I don't see the need for additional changes or clarifications.
Thank you, Ms. Lipton. Ms. Snyder.
Yes, I'm just wondering, I don't think we need to sit as a board and rehash how bodies generally are expected to debate and treat one another. Our board abides by Robert's Rules of Order. So honestly, if we were to include Robert's Rules of Order procedure under each bullet point as we move forward, that would probably be the most appropriate. When members have not been courteous, those things need to be acknowledged as disorderly words and handled as disorderly words. When a chair does not call on a member, there is a procedure as to how that is addressed. So for us to sort of, come up with a document like this is just sort of an acknowledgement that we haven't been behaving as a body the way we should be behaving as a body. And that, I would say, is one of my biggest foundations when I tell people our board is quite dysfunctional. So this document, it needs to be, evidenced in what we already should have been doing. And I'll leave it at that for now on this bullet point.
Thank you, Ms. Snyder. Other reflections? Okay.
Yeah, I would just say I agree with that. The next bullet is board members will allow adequate time for responses to be given by other board members, staff, and guests.
Well, is there only a certain amount of responses, or can a board member give only after 2 and then they're not allowed a third, or should we clarify that? I'll just throw it out there, given how today went.
Okay, Ms. Snyder, to you.
That was for the last bullet point. That was not, I'm not wishing to speak at this time.
Very good. I saw your virtual hand. Other reflections by other board members?
Moving on. Board members will focus on statewide educational issues and challenges. Questions, comments, concerns?
Well, I guess this and several of the other.
Please.
This and several of the other ones kind of get to the point of what happens, because there's a lot of gray in this. So if a board member brings up something that is viewed as not a state educational issue, even though they may think it is, or an educational challenge, does this mean they're shut down, or is that, that we use, I'm trying to figure out how this is going to be used. It's not going to be, so all it would be is somebody pointing out that I feel you are violating board norm here, or no?
No, so I think the intent here is our agenda will focus on educational issues. We won't bring in issues that are not education related. I don't think that this has been particularly an issue for us, but it's just a way to make sure that we're focusing on, as Ms. Tilley said earlier, we're focusing on things that are under our purview, under our control, and not allowing, say, issues that are outside of anything related to education becoming part of the agenda for the board.
But I'm asking about how it's going to be used. So could it be used in a way that says that resolution doesn't fall under statewide educational issues and challenges, therefore we're not going to allow it? Is that the kind of way a board norm might be used?
Well, I think we always have the right to allow or reject anything on the agenda.
Okay.
So.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lipton. And Ms. Tilley, did I see you in the queue for a comment or a question?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, very good. So Ms. Lipton, Ms. Snyder, Ms. Tilley.
I would just refer to common definitions of board norms to be used individually by board members as self-reflective in terms of personal conduct. So board norms, as I understand them, are to govern, they are to be used as guideposts by each individual board member in terms of how they conduct themselves and how they present information and how they vociferously argue for their positions. This is akin to an exercise that was undertaken several years ago by the State Board of Michigan to deal with what was believed to be a breakdown in civility within the profession, the legal profession, and the rules of civility that the State Bar eventually promulgated, again, were to be used each individually by each attorney as a way of personal reflection on how they represent their clients and how they can continue to be zealous advocates for their position and still hold up the highest standards of civility within the profession. I look at these board norms very similarly to that exercise.
Thank you, Ms. Lipton. Ms. Snyder, Ms. Tilley.
I'll actually defer for now, sorry.
Okay, Ms. Tilley.
I had written in the queue, just thinking about commenting on the part of the discussion where we were speaking about the chair and him calling out or allowing members to speak. Part of the chair's job is to keep the meeting moving. And yes, part of the chair's job is also to recognize members when they want to speak. But under Robert's Rules of Order, you can limit the time that somebody does speak in order to keep the meeting moving. I hope we don't have to officially, say that somebody gets 2 minutes to speak or whatever. Sometimes we all can be long-winded. So I think that Dr. Rice does a pretty good job in allowing us to speak and sometimes go on and go over. But it is his job to keep the meeting moving. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tilley. Other board members on this fifth board norm? Okay, thank you very much.
That's a good segue into the next bullet point, actually, which is board members will be prepared, start on time, use time wisely, and end on time. Any questions or comments? Next one, board members who want to propose additions to the agenda or resolutions or statements will submit fully written documents to the chair/state superintendent president and state board executive no later than 24 hours before the start of the meeting to allow documents to be shared with all board members to facilitate adequate preparation for meetings. And I just want to thank you because you did that.
Just for clarification.
Please.
But we did say, I think at the last meeting, that we don't do this all the time. If a bill comes up or if some issue comes up, that we have written resolutions kind of on the fly. Not very often, but we have written them kind of on the fly without 24-hour notice.
That is correct. And I think we could all agree that we recognize that that does happen at times, and sometimes we may have to fall outside of the norms. But in general, the norm would be if we can do it 24 hours in advance, we should.
Okay.
I would like to note on this, and I do appreciate you sending us the materials at 9 o'clock yesterday morning. There could be a utility to the sharing of materials, not simply with the board president, the board chair, and the state board executive, but rather with the entire board. There are going to be times when one, the other, all three of us aren't necessarily focused on our email immediately. And I think that there's some value to everybody receiving it at once rather than, relying on the pivot. That's not to say you did anything wrong, not my point. No. Rather, it's simply to suggest a possible amendment to this.
Please, yeah. I appreciate that. I guess I just am a little worried that it can kind of promote, you get close to the line of Open Meetings Act issues. So I just, if somebody replies to that all and then says something, it really gets dicey. So that's my only main concern about that.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's a good point. We'd have to put some bumpers around it.
Yeah.
It may be hard at the moment. People looking at things. Ms. Lipton, to you.
Might I suggest then the addition of the board secretary?
Okay.
The addition of the board secretary, which presumably would then be responsible for disseminating it to the members.
Okay. Anyone else? Dr. Rice, is there anyone requesting?
I see nobody.
Okay.
No, ma'am.
All right. Moving on. Board member requests for information or assistance should be sent to the state superintendent and/or state board executive, who will distribute the communication to staff for response. Any questions or comments?
I see and hear none.
Okay. Last one. Board members will make a reasonable effort to inform the president and state superintendent regarding any issues that could be highlighted by media or that could be discussed at a public forum, including state board meetings, so there are no surprises.
Well, I find that a little bit unusual. If I get called by the media, I might reply without letting you know about that.
Yeah, and I don't think that's the intent of this at all. I think what it is it's more along the lines of, for example, some board members have called press conferences, and just to give us a heads up because we're going to get called to respond, and so it would be nice to know what we're responding to before that call comes in. That's basically what this bullet point is about. It's not precluding you at all from responding to media inquiries or anything along those lines.
So if I have a press release, I'm supposed to let you know about it first?
You don't have to. It would be nice though if we knew about it, so that when I get called and said, "What do you think about Mr. McMillan's press release?" I can say, I might actually know what you're talking about. But I suppose if you want me to be surprised, I guess that's your prerogative.
Ms. Snyder, to you.
I was just going to say this also falls kind of in the territory of if I attend a forum or something like that, I'm not going to come back and report immediately back, if you will. It's just, it kind of aligns with, do I have to tell you everything I'm doing and everywhere I'm going and everything that is being said is the question. So I'm hearing you say no, that's not it. So yeah.
Absolutely, that's correct. This is not about any individual board member doing your job as an individual board member. This is, and it uses the words reasonable effort to inform. Like I said, this is about if we are aware of or generating something that is most likely going to mean that either Dr. Rice or I are going to get a phone call or asked to comment on something, it's nice to know ahead of time that we might be commenting on something so that we can educate ourselves. However, at the end of the day, you are an individual board member, and how you choose to, what you choose to attend or what you choose to say is completely up to you.
Thank you to both. Ms. Tilley, to you.
I think it's just about transparency. I think that's all that's being asked for. And that's basically it. Having some decorum, having just having enough respect to be transparent with your board members, with Dr. Rice, letting us know what's going on, letting MDE know what's going on in case anybody else needs to respond. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tilley. Any other reflections from anyone else? Mr. McMillan.
I would just say, I mean, this is one that I might want me to oppose the board norms. The others, I mean, I have concerns about how definitions of courteous and civility and, but I mean, we are a partisan body, and, I guarantee you that people that oppose my views that may not be on this board, but may want to stop an effort that I'm doing is not going to give me a heads up that they're going to do a press conference or press release or any partisan body. I just can't imagine that. If you said might or may and may make a reason, but when you say will, I just just consciously I just can't consciously. I just can't say that I will when I won't. I mean, I'm not sure that I can.
That's understandable. We can make that change. And might I also suggest that maybe we have this bullet point focused specifically on State Board of Education work. So I'm not suggesting that, you, for any reason, any partisan work that you're doing, have to inform us of that. That's not the point of this. It's more along the lines of, as the treasurer of the State Board of Education, I'm doing this, which is going to affect the board, the superintendent, et cetera. So we can certainly clarify that if that would make that better for you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. McMillan, President Ulbrich. Any other reflections on any other part? Ms. Tilley, do I see you in the chat? Thought I saw you, and then I thought you disappeared there.
No, that wasn't me.
Okay. Ms. Snyder? Nope. Okay, very good.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other reflections on anyone else's part? Hearing and seeing none, thank you very much. We appreciate that. Board, we are sitting at 11:35, and we are going to bank a few things from the afternoon. If we could move to the approval of State Board of Education minutes. Approval of minutes of regular and committee of the whole meeting of September 14th, 2021. We have moved to the regular meeting. May I please have a motion to approve the minutes of the regular and committee of the whole meeting of September 14th, 2021?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Support.
We have a motion and we have support. Any discussion? Hearing none, if we could do a roll call vote.
Lipton,
Yes.
McMillan,
Yes.
Pritchett,
Yes.
Pugh absent, Snyder,
Yes.
Strayhorn,
Yes.
Billy,
Yes.
Albridge.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you very much, Board. We are at that point in the accelerated agenda where we have our report of the President, President Albridge.
Well, as usual, I will be very, very short. First of all, let me just say thank you for that conversation we just had with the board norms. I really appreciate everyone's openness and willingness to take a look at this, and I am hopeful that that this will lead to some a positive future for the board. The second thing I just wanted to mention, I attended a couple of things over the last month, the Mackinac Policy Conference. I was at that, and there was some good, a couple education conversations that took place. And so, as always, that was an enlightening conference to attend. I also attended parts of the NASB Policy Conference. My favorite, of course, was, and I'm going to say it one more time, Michelle Fecteau receiving an award on behalf of this board. So thank you all for your support in that. She had just a wonderful speech and very, very moving. And so she represented the board very well. So I just wanted to share that. And then finally, just wanted to say how much I appreciated the early childhood presentation today. We don't often get the opportunity to see what's happening in a classroom as it's happening. And it's always, it brings me back to why we're here. So that's it for me.
Thank you, President Albridge. Report of the State Superintendent, almost as brief. And I certainly resemble the short remark. So I want to add my congratulations to Michelle Fecteau, who is an outstanding board member on the board for a term, and just left the board in the last year and a half. Mm-hmm. We appreciate Michelle. I want to congratulate West Maple Elementary School in Birmingham Public Schools, which had the Model Library of the Year. I was in Birmingham Public Schools recently at West Maple Elementary to celebrate the school, the district. Carrie Betts, their media specialist, their new superintendent, Dr. Roberson, was so appreciative of the involvement and the leadership of State Librarian Randy Riley, who's really promoted the value of school libraries. And I can't say enough about the importance of school libraries for literacy, for engagement, for children getting to see themselves in their literature, seeing other children in their literature, being able to slide through sliding doors and enter other cultures and communities in their literature. So important. Carrie Betts is a phenomenal media specialist. She's doing a great job in Birmingham Public Schools. Love the emphasis in Birmingham on diversity. 54 flags from across the world hanging up, an interest in multicultural literature, which I found really heartwarming from a district that isn't one of the more diverse districts in the state, but which has a very, very deep commitment to diversity. So I share that and with appreciation. I will tell you that many of us I believe that there's a value to every single one of our libraries in the state being open all day, being staffed with a trained librarian. We're so appreciative of the work of our state association, Maine, which is our media specialists. They promote the profession, but others of us need to promote the profession as well. There's literature which talks about the value of libraries, community libraries, school libraries, libraries in classrooms. You heard one of our GSRP educators talk about the value of the library in the classroom, being at eye level for the babies. If children can't see, if children can't reach, if children can't connect to, if they can't choose themselves, there are challenges associated therewith. So again, just lifting up libraries in general, and more specifically this library in West Maple Elementary School. A number of you may be aware that we are having supply chain issues across the country and in many cases across the world associated with a wide variety of goods. We heard this in our GSRP presentation. If you would have told me pre-pandemic that in the midst of a Great Start Readiness Program presentation, we would have heard about supply chain issues, I would have told you that you need to go to the doctor immediately. Okay, it's just not a top 50 issue in preschool, but supply chain is an issue in public schools. In some cases, we are having trouble getting materials. In some cases, we're having trouble getting technology. And the same is true with our food supply chain as well. And I just want to lay down that marker today at the state board meeting. We'll be talking more about this in a future state board meeting. But I want you to know that we are working with school districts across the state. This is a national issue, these supply chain issues. Dr. Diane Golzinski, our director of the Office of Health and Nutrition Services, want to thank her for her work and that of her staff and our health and nutrition staff across the state. They have worked under very difficult conditions in 830 districts across the state to provide more than 250 million meals during the pandemic to our children. You know, these are people who every day are working it hard for our kids. And they don't get a lot of attaboys and attagirls and praise, but they're every bit as integral to our operation as anybody else. So with appreciation to them. Our state American Recovery Plan, ARP plan, was approved. And I'd like to thank Deputy Superintendent for Finance and Operations Kyle Garant for his work on this issue. I want to also thank U.S. Secretary of Education Miguel Cardona, who was kind enough to meet with me in Detroit. I want to thank the U.S. Secretary's staff. What this means is that the feds have released the final one-third, $1.24 billion of ARP funds. It permits the use of $363 million, Dr. Pritchett, for equalization payments for districts that were going to receive less than $1,093 per student in funding from the 90% ARP formula grants. The 90% was formula. The question was, what do you do with the balance? And I think given the uneven distribution in favor of districts with much, much greater need, that the state legislature felt, and a number of others felt, that there was a value to making sure that no district received less than $1,093 per student in additional funds through these pandemic relief resources. I want to thank Lisa Brewer-Walraven, our Director of Child Care, and her team for their work on the strengthening of child care during the pandemic. Dr. Koenigsegg as well. Ms. Brewer-Walraven reports up to Dr. Koenigsegg. I also want to thank the governor and the legislature for its collaborative work on the allocation of $1.5 billion in federal pandemic relief funds. This is the 7th round of child care funding from the federal government during the pandemic to help stabilize and strengthen child care during the pandemic for our children and families. Some of you may recall that when the governor came into office, she sought to increase the level below which you were eligible for child care, above which you would not be eligible for child care. She sought to raise it from 130% of the federal poverty limit to 150% of the federal poverty limit. That was rejected initially by the state legislature. The budget that was negotiated between the governor and the legislature, approved by the legislature, signed into law by the governor, increased that limit to 185% of the federal poverty limit for the next 2 years, through September 30th, 2023, after which time it will descend, given the diminution of federal funds, to 160% of the federal poverty limit. So that's a big deal. That opens up child care for more children. Now, I want to draw a distinction between child care, which is the responsibility of Lisa Brewer-Walraven, and Great Start Readiness Program, which is the province of Richard Lauer. Not to denigrate one or favor the other, not the point at all. They're each important, but they are nonetheless different. The importance of child care is in part educational, and it's in part simply the ability to make sure that young people are safe, healthy, and for their parents to be able to then go out and seek and maintain employment. Child care is integrally related to an economic recovery and to a strong economy. And we appreciate both sides of the aisle acknowledging this importance of child care. I might add, I would say the same thing about Great Start Readiness Program as well. There is bipartisan support, not simply for some measure of early childhood education, and I'll talk about this a little bit more next month, but for universal early childhood education for all those eligible. That is overwhelmingly a bipartisan feeling. That's not just my opinion, although it is my opinion. That's what just got voted on this summer by the state legislature, signed into law by the governor. The more and better you care for little ones, the more and better prepared our young people will be when they enter Ms. Leah Porter's kindergarten classroom back in the day and her third grade classroom today. And with that, I will stop my filibuster. It is 11:49. We will return board at 12:50 from lunch.